Forever Youth Pastor, Episode 3. My name is Jeremy Herr, and we are just going to have some conversations that I think are really interesting, fascinating conversations. And these are stories of faith, love, and the power of compounding. And so, my question to start us off in this conversation is why are we here? Like, maybe the most essential big question of our entire lives. Like, why are we here? What is the point of my entire life? Like, how did I get to this place in this moment in time? How did you get to that place that you are in at this moment of time? And why is it that God put the people around you that He did? Why were you born into the family that you were born into? Like, why are we here? What is the point of all of it? And this is like the existential question that each and every one of us like wonder, and we go about this journey to like figure it out, but we just keep asking these questions. But mostly, if we're being honest, the deepest times that we try to discover why we are here, what our deeper purpose and meaning is those become the most anxiety-ridden moments in our lives. Because this question is so big and so hard, what we end up doing is we just end up stressing out about it, or we end up like comparing our journey to someone else's journey and then thinking lesser of our journey because their journey looks so much better. And the deeper reality is like they're doing the same thing. They might even be looking at you and thinking the exact opposite. And that's the crazy thing with this existential question is like, why am I here? And what is the purpose of all of it? And so let's just for a second, let's have some fun with this. Let's go back all the way to the very beginning of time. Like everybody who has ever lived, whether they are religious or not, whether they are super into science or not, anybody who has ever lived, regardless of their connections and their politics or anything else, they believe that at some point, all of this had a beginning. Everybody. And so the question is not, did this begin at some moment in time? It's how. It's like when. How did this happen and when did it happen? And that's, of course, where different people from different backgrounds and different faith systems or no faith at all, that's where they differentiate. But if you are going all the way back to that beginning moment, however it happened, and I'll like throw out my idea of it in a second, but it's like however that happened, if you think of like epicenter moment one, like that moment that all of creation happened, that moment when everything that came into being begun. Think of that moment. Do yourself a thing. Just like take this next 5 seconds and just think about that moment. Like, what is it that comes to mind? And now, like, describe that moment. Describe it. What happened? What was there? What was the experience? And now, like, really to like break your brain, think about this. Take that moment that all of creation came into being and back it up like 1 minute before that beginning point. Now describe that. Explain that moment. Try it. You you can't. You can't because the second you try to explain it, the second you put names to it, the second you make anything there, like if you make anything exist, then that's not the beginning point. Because the beginning point is before anything existed. Like there was nothing there, right? The beginning means that there was nothing and then there was something. And so back it up like one moment in time before that beginning point. you can't explain it. You can't describe it. You can't put anything there, because if you put anything there in that moment, then that's not the beginning. The beginning was somewhere before that. And I say all that to say is like, it makes all of it so big and so interesting that there's this moment in time when it all came into being. And of course, as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, as a pastor, I believe that beginning moment, that thing that was there before everything came into being, was God. And God was therefore the creator of all of it. And so then let's just go down the line of this like massive human story that ensued. It's like God creates everything. Like God creates every single thing in all creation, like all the animals, all the trees, the forests, the oceans. He creates the mountains. He creates everything that there is in all of creation. And it is just the most beautiful, incredible, amazing place that humans could ever dream of inhabiting. I mean, there's talk of like SpaceX, Elon Musk trying to get people to Mars, and it's like, that's crazy. But when they get there, they're going to have to make it inhabitable for humans, because it is not naturally by itself inhabitable. The earth was totally, incredibly inhabitable for all of us, for plants, for animals, for humans. And then these humans came into being, and they just started procreating and multiplying. And of course, they had all sorts of issues along the way. They did so much good and they did so much bad. And it's just this huge, complex, just really epic story of humanity. But just think of like all the incredible things that humans have done. Like humans have contributed to this just incredibleness that we call Earth. Like we have all these different cultures and gatherings of people, and every like just all over this thing we call Earth. And then like we all gather together in these pockets, and we eventually call them nations or states, nation states. And then we develop our own culture and language, and we like have our own art. And then we as time went on and as technology progressed, there's like just this accumulation of all of human wisdom and knowledge and creation that then gets put together, and then it just starts to get multiple as other humans are helping other humans to continue to like push this thing down the road. And with that comes all sorts of messiness and politics and issues and sin and depravity. But with it just comes insanely great invention and beauty and creation, because this God who created all things, that was there before the moment of all creation, he decided that we could co-create. We could be the ones not only enjoying the creation, we could make things. Humans have made the most incredible things. If you go anywhere and just look around at what's God made and what's human made, both are remarkable. Both are incredible. Both are beautiful. Both are amazing. Like God has allowed his creation to be co-creators. Like, can you imagine a time like taking back an iPhone 100 years ago? I mean, they just wouldn't even have any remote understanding of what this device is. Like, for better or worse, humans have come up with all the millions of things of technology to get to that point in time where you could pull a supercomputer out of your pocket and just be able to talk with anyone anywhere, and you can like even see their faces at the same time. I mean, just imagine what it is in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Whether some of these things are good and have helped humans, like there's a debate there, there's a nuance there that of course is an interesting conversation, but none of us could accuse humans of not just being these incredible creators, these incredible inventors, these incredible like people that like built things and made things. It's amazing. And along the way, what we try to figure out is like, okay, why am I here? Like, what is this whole thing about? Like, is it just to make things so that I can sell those things so that I can make money? And we go down like these pursuits. Is money like the thing? And after a while, like some of us, it's like, okay, that's just the thing. I just need to earn the thing so that I can live in that nice place and so that I can compare myself favorably to all the people around us. I heard Warren Buffett once say that it's not greed that's the human problem, it's envy. We just want what our neighbor has. We want what the person down the road from us has. We want to compare ourselves favorably to the people around us. And obviously, with social media, that has just gotten so much more complex and confusing because now we can just see at all times what everyone is up to and what they're driving and the vacations they're taking and all the stuff they have. And so now we're not just comparing ourselves to our neighbors, now we're comparing ourselves to the whole world. And yeah, maybe most of us didn't see that coming with social media, but that was obviously going to be a problem. Like now, we're not just comparing ourselves to the people in our hallways at our schools, we're comparing ourselves to every kid in every hallway around the world. We're not just comparing ourselves to like what our house has, what we have in relation to our neighbors. Now we're comparing ourselves to like every rich person who has ever lived. And so now we all just end up, if we are living by those comparisons, we're all just end up feeling bad about ourselves. Because like I do not compare favorably to the people that I want to compare favorably to. And by the way, if you ever do get to this point where you compare favorably to someone else, you feel good about yourself for like a minute. Because then you just change your expectations and start comparing yourselves to like other people with more stuff and better positions or more power. And so, if that is our drive, if that is where we're going to find meaning and purpose, it will just always collapse on itself because unless you become the richest, most beautiful, most powerful person on earth, you'll just always not compare yourself favorably to other people. And by the way, I bet if that person ever existed, which they of course don't, that person would probably want your life. They would probably be envious of the simplicity and beauty of your life. It's just way easier. You mean all they really like focus on is like their family? All they really like care about is like this community of people that they kind of do life with? That sounds pretty terrific. And so really it's just a matter of like who we're comparing ourselves to. Like that's how we end up like trying to find our meaning and our purpose. And like we end up asking the questions of like, why am I here based on like how am I comparing myself to others and how do I feel about how that's going? But I'll just zoom back for a second and I'll say this. I don't think, of course, that's the way God intended it at all. Like, we are his creations. We are his sons and daughters. We are co creators. We get to participate in this new creation, as the Apostle Paul calls it. And he wants to, like, us to actively participate in this. And so that, like, is involved with, like, making things and creating things. But it's also about us, like, making and creating goodness in the world. It's about us like making and creating love in the world. And I don't say that like to sound weird. I know that combination of words kind of sounded weird, but it's like Jesus said, like the greatest of all time, Jesus, the savior of the world, Jesus, the one who God had this plan to like make and create all of creation. And like we get to participate in all of this, then we just like became a big mess. And it's like God looked down and said, like I gotta like come alongside these humans. I'm going to come and be with them. He chose to come and to be with us. This story is epic. This story is so massive. The Christian story should never be communicated in a way that is like boring and uninteresting because this is so epic and so big. The creator of all things, the one who created everything around us, he came to be with us, and his name was Jesus. And Jesus said, and by the way, He showed us the ultimate example of love by like dying for us, by like giving us everything, by paying the ultimate price for each and every one of us. He did that for us. That is epic. That is remarkable. That is incredible. That is just is the story of all time. The Christian story, the Jesus story, is the story of all time. Nobody has been written about more than him. Nobody has been talked about. Nobody has been more controversial. Nobody has been more subversive in all of human history than Jesus. There are people that don't even want to talk about him because he just evokes something good, bad, something. There's no other name. There's no other name that has evoked more from humans. And so, like Jesus, did it completely the opposite. He wasn't there to compare himself to other people. He came to serve. He came to like give of himself. He came to ultimately give up everything in the ultimate act of love for all time. He did that for you and for me. He did that for us. It's just remarkable. It's just incredible. He did that. And so then it's like, okay, Jesus is amazing and remarkable. It's like, what should we do like in response to this? And what he said to do is like, just follow Jesus' teachings. And then you're like, okay, but what is Jesus' teachings? This is what he said. It's like someone once asked him, like, what is the most important thing? What is like the greatest thing? And Jesus said, love God. Okay. Like we can process and try to figure out what that means. And in like episodes to come, man, we will really dig at that. What does it mean to love God? How do we even do that? I think the vast majority of us struggle with just even understanding, how do I love God? It it results in us just doing stuff and thinking that if we just do enough stuff, like God will be proud of us and that'll be the best way that we can possibly love God. We'll have conversations about that, but it never works. It always falls short. But like, here's the thing, the second part, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, love the person who is right there in front of you. Love that person. That is the best way that we can follow Jesus. And so then, like, what does that look like for us to like bring love into this world? What does it look like the next time you are right there in front of a person who really just bothers you? Like you don't see eye to eye with this person. Like everything you believe, this person believes the opposite. It's like, what are we going to do? How does this interaction go? And it's like we get to decide every single time we have those interactions. Like you get to decide. You get to determine what you do. And the Jesus way, and I think is part to the question, like, why am I here? I think we're here to do that, to love that person. Like the people we agree with, the people we disagree with, the family members we get along with, and the family members we don't get along with. The neighbor on one side who is great and kind, and the neighbor that's on the other side that's just a total piece of work. What are we going to do? And it's like when we make the choices at times to like not love, like to hold grudges, to like blame that person for all that they've done, all the ways they've like screwed us over. That's when life really starts to get complicated, right? When you have a list of people that you like being around and a list of people you avoid being around, or a list of people you talk to and a list of people you don't talk to, that is such a complicated life. Like, and honestly, part of what Jesus is saying is like, that life is really complicated. Like, don't do that. Don't do that life. Because that life is so hard. When you have to like walk into a grocery store and like fear who you are going to see because of like the past history there, I think what Jesus is saying is like, don't live like that because that life is hard. It's full of all sorts of tension and anxiety and difficulty and challenge. And you always got to know like who's on what list and like who's for me and who's against me. And Jesus is like, no, 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 just love everyone. Just love like the person who's right in front of you. And like, you don't have to like be obnoxious and like, you don't have to do all this weird stuff to love them. It's like, no, 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 just care that they exist. Just like, just be kind to them. Just say hello. Just like learn their name. You don't have to be best friends. You don't even have to like talk that much to them. But like, what an amazing thing if we just like take 100% of the responsibility of like our side of relationships. And if in taking 100% of responsibility of our side of relationships, what if we just choose to love people? And you're like, no, 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 Jeremy, that's so overly simplistic. And that's so like just simpleton thinking or something. I don't even know what that means, but sounds right. Try it though. Just try it. Just try it for like 1 week. Just purposely love people that you don't ordinarily go out of your way to love and just see what happens. Just try it. Like seriously, I dare you to try it. And like if you're hanging on 21 minutes into this episode and you're like still hanging on, then you are probably the kind of person that is willing to try it. And like friend, just try it. Like seriously, Jesus said it partially because like it's the right thing to do. Partially he said it because it just leads to a much easier, more beautiful life. And here's the thing, like we actually get to control those things. We get to control how we are with the person right in front of us. We get to decide that. And so it's like, why am I here? Why am I here? I'm just going to propose. I'm just going to advocate in this episode. Like the reason you're here is to like love the person who's right in front of you. Period. End of story. Like you're here on this earth to like be in relationships. It's not to accumulate stuff. It's not to have like stuff is great. Like I like technology. I really like technology. And I like the devices. I like stuff. I like things. Right now I'm like into collecting basketball cards. I I used to be super into basketball cards when I was young and I was broke and I had no money and I just had to like scrape together quarters to go up to the card shop, my town growing up and just buy like a pack. If I like walked out of the store with a pack of cards, it was like the holy grail, right? And now today, like I can just go in and buy packs of cards and it's like no big deal. And like now it's like, okay, you're able to like get more stuff. And it's like, I think back to like my experience when I was 15, broke as a joke and could just afford one pack of cards. Was I less happy then than I am about cards today? It's like I'd probably point to that past moment as like a more joyful experience when there was like something on the line and I couldn't just like kind of buy within reason whatever I wanted. And so I don't think it's about stuff. I think the framework for life and the question of like why am I here? It's about like the people. It's about the people that are right in front of us. Like it's so overly simplistic, but it's actually profound. And seriously, you already know how hard it is. The reason why so many of us avoid just doing really well by the person who's right there in front of us is because it's so hard. And because so often we're just lost in our own stuff. Like we're too busy just circling all the things that we have in our lives, all the responsibilities. And then we're like circling all the ways in which we like are worried about the future, or we're worried about our lives, or we're worried about the people's lives whom we love and care deeply about. And so we're just circling all these things all the time that have like everything to do with all the stuff going on in our lives. And so like the reality is like a lot of our energy is being taken up by those things. And so it's so hard to like take of the reservoir and really truly consider the person who's right there in front of us. But it's the way. Let's not confuse the difficulty of it with thinking that it's not the way. I would actually say the opposite. Because it's so hard, it points to the fact that it is actually the way. And here's the thing, along the way, If you are the kind of person who is just love and kind to the people right there in front of you, guess what's going to happen is you are going to start going through your days, weeks, months, and years, and you are going to start to pile up a lot of people all around you who really are kind and good as well and want to be up to the same stuff. And so, like, here's this crazy, like, secret in life is like, just look at the group of people around you. Like, consider the 5 people you spend your most time with. And now think of like yourself. So the 5 people, and then think of yourself. And it's like, you guys are probably all pretty much up to the same stuff, right? You have the same general character, the same morals, the same values. You make the same kind of good decisions, and you probably make the same bad decisions. And it's not that you're the same person or you have the same personality, but you probably end up, give or take, kind of living the life that they're living. And so that's for the good and that's for the bad. There's that famous quote, just show me your friends and I'll show you the future. Working in youth ministry for 21 years, that is one of the truest things that I've ever heard. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's just one of the truest things that's ever been stated. And so if you are the kind of person who is loving and kind and good and generous, guess who you're going to find all around you? People that are loving and kind and generous and good. And you'll stir it up in them and they'll stir it up in you. And guess what? It's so much fun. Oh my goodness. It's the best. It's just the best. It's the best thing like that you will ever do. It's the best thing that you will ever be a part of. To just have this crew of people that are just kind and good and loving, and you all conspire to do it together, like towards each other and towards everyone else. And I would also advocate that that is like literally the blueprint of what the church should be. At its very best, that should be a description of what the church is. I've been able to be a part of a church that just has some of these deep values at their core. They're just a kind, loving, welcoming bunch of people. And people that come in and are drawn to it are a bunch of kind, loving, and welcoming people. We don't yell and scream at each other. We don't mince words. We don't argue theology all day, every day. We honestly like love it. We need it. We teach it. We value it. We believe in the Bible, but it's like what we're really most interested in, like seeing how we can apply this stuff, how we can live it. Because once you start living it, then you start able to answer these big questions like, why am I here? And what is this all about? I think that's it. I think that's it. And so, like, I guess try it. Some of you, I have a strong feeling, especially those of you that have made it this far, you're already doing this. You're already doing it, and you know it. And you know it. And you're just listening along. You're just affirming because you get it. You totally get it. And this resonates deeply with you. And it's just going to keep pushing you along. And I'm proud of you. And by the way, this is like the last bonus section of every episode. If you've made it this far, this is for you. You are a hero. Like, I'm sorry, if you're listening to this stuff, if you care enough about this stuff to make it 29 minutes in, you're a hero. And you're on an epic journey. Like, it is so cool. It is seriously, I am so proud of you. I may or may not know you. Chances are I may be related to you. By the way, all my relatives out there, I love you and thank you. Thank you. I feel seen and heard by you. Thank you. But to those of you who are still hanging on, seriously, you're on a journey and you're still here because of the journey you're on. And by the way, let's just have fun because I deeply believe in fun, and I'm trying to like make these like serious and interesting. But I got to figure out how to incorporate some more fun because that's kind of at the core of who I am. But if you've made it this far in the comment section, please just put the word bamboozle. Dude, it'll be awesome because no one else will know what the heck is going on. But we will also know, like the four of us, we will also know that like we did it and we're like on a hero journey. And so when we put the word bamboozle, it will actually being applauding the other four of us. We'll see how many. That it's like, congratulations for being on a hero's journey. And we're proud of each other. Let's do that. Seriously, let's do that. Let's go.